Alechem, Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the book of Ezra, chapter 3, in which there are 13 verses. Beginning in verse 1, we see the expression as one man. And that word one is the Hebrew echad, which, if we didn't do a study on this, but just to sum it up, it doesn't mean one as in singular. Obviously, there are multiple people. How can they be singular? Well, because they were united as one. So another way to understand this, even the nature of Elohim, Elohim of Israel, Hashem, he is united. It's not one singular entity, he's united. Okay, so that is controversial for some, but it is common sense for others who are given the Ruach HaKodesh to understand that Yah Elohim isn't one, as in one singular, is multiple, but united as one. Okay, so that's verse 1, and that's singular. That's number 1. Verse 4, exact. And I think verse 1 proves my point that echad is in singular, it is multiple being united as one. That is the point of that verse. What I'm trying to express, trying to teach there. Verse 4, we see exact versus the duty. So this is an exact, specific, determined number, not simply their duty, like a vague, no number provided. There is an exact number provided. Verse 5, we have an omission of season of new moon, for the season of new moon, which calls into question, and this word season is from the Hebrew moedim, meaning appointed time. So is the new moon, is that an appointed set time? Well, technically it's not listed in Leviticus 23 as one of the feast days. So perhaps it is an appointed time, but not a feast day, that not to the level of the annual feast days, because Leviticus 23 are distinct from the new moons, because the new moons are once a month and they occur on the sighted crescent. Still observed to this day by Muslims and by some Messianics who observe the conjunction, sighted moon, and various interpretations of that. Not observed by many Christians, however. That is an interesting point. But I am leaning towards the understanding that yes, the new moon it's a set time. It's an appointed time, but it's not listed in Leviticus 23 as one of the annual feasts. Okay, so that's verse 5. Verse 6, just an expository here. So technically speaking, let's read this first before I comment. On the first day of the 7th month, they began to offer whole burnt offerings to Hashem. But the foundation of the house of Hashem was not laid. So the temple was not yet built, yet they offered whole burnt offerings. So technically speaking, because of this verse, it provides a precedent that offerings, sacrifices can be offered, in fact, just as it was done here in this verse, even though there is no foundation for the temple. Even today, we have no foundation for the temple of Hashem, of Yah, the Elohim of Israel. As of this video in 2025, there's no temple that is standing. So does that mean sacrifices and offerings cannot be made? Answer, no. You can sacrifice and offer based on this verse, but it has to be done, in my opinion, by the Levites, the sons of Aaron, and then going by the son of Aaron, I believe that's is it Eleazar? I'm not sure right now, but the proper son might be Zadok. I'm not sure. or Pinchas. Pinchas. Verse 6. Verse 8 now. Over the workmen. Over the workmen uh, in the house of Hashem versus to set forward the work of the house of Hashem. So we have a specific position of authority. These are those supervisors who are over the workforce, the workmen, versus simply moving the work forward. So progressing in the work. And that's a continuous difference. Even in the next verse, it says here in verse 9, over them versus set forward again. Verse 10, we have robes, which this kind of looks like a robe, but it isn't a robe. It's a shawl. So it says there robes versus apparel. So robes are a specific type of garment of apparel. Verse 11, and they answered each other. Verses, and they sang together by course, taking turns in order. That's what it means. They're not going by, the Levitical courses. It's in their order. So this is an interesting type of praise and thanksgiving. It is being done taking turns, answering each other in a specific order, an orderly fashion. And what did they sing? It says here, there's an omission of saying. What did they say? What did they sing? For it is good. For his mercy to Israel endures forever. That was one of the thanks and praises, thanksgiving. And they answered each other. Okay, I've read that already. Praising at. Okay, praising at. Verse 11. They answered each other with praise and thanksgiving, for it is good, for his mercy endures forever. And all the people shouted with a loud voice to praise Hashem at the laying the foundation of the house of Hashem. Okay, I can't seem to find that, but it says praising at or because. To praise Hashem at. Okay. I should have put a ... there. So they are praising towards Hashem during the laying the foundation of the house of Hashem. So that is the context. However, the praise and thanksgiving is being done because of the laying of the foundation, which seems to make sense. I'm just not sure if that's the reason why they were giving thanks and praise. Would they be doing this whether the foundation was being laid or not? Probably. It seems to be part of the order of service in terms of sacrificing, blowing trumpets, and also singing. And so it seems that is part of the worship, how worship is done. Whether they would do this regardless whether the foundation is being laid or not. Okay, that's the point. Okay, verse 12. The elder men, heads of families identified here, are probably the ones crying and weeping out loud, whereas the Levites, the priests, are the ones who are shouting for joy. That is my assumption. So not so much a difference, simply speculation on my part. Because it says here, right here, explicitly, the Levites, many of the priests and Levites, comma, it's one group, and the elder men, heads of families, who had seen the former house on its foundation. So it seems it could be both groups. But then you have these two different groups, two distinct groups. One, who would be the group who would cry and weep? Well, it would be the ones who lived long enough to see the former house. That would be the elder men, or the heads of families. Naturally, they're the ones who are the eldest. But priests and Levites, they are not old people. They are at least 30 years old, but they seem to retire at a certain age before they could be elders. So it would make sense for the priests and Levites to not know about what the former house appeared, how it appeared, and so they would then weep without. I'm sorry, they would shout with joy because they don't know nothing else. They're just happy, and this is all new to them. Verse 13. Voice of the weeping, noise of the weeping. So that is a continuous difference throughout this one verse. It's using the term voice, talking about whether it's weeping or joy, versus noise. So not simply a noise. It's not like a loud bang or an earthquake or any vague kind of sound. This is sound coming from the mouth of a human being. So that is naturally a voice. So that's all for this chapter. Thank you very much for your time. Until next time, I bid you all Shalom Alechem, Assalamu Alaikum, Irini Mazisu, Pax Vobiscum, peace be unto you, Shabbat Shalom, and Maranatha.